Hello and welcome to Grief to Gratitude, our next episode. And today I'm going solo. My name is Debbie Fabre, and I wanted to share my testimony with you today regarding grief and what the Lord has done in my life. And I'm a little bit more apprehensive in a way to do this on my own, but I felt like this is what the Lord wanted me to do and kind of tell you what Grief to Gratitude is about and why I started it. Um, like I said, my name's Debbie Fabre. I was married to my husband Craig for 37 years. Yeah, 37 years. We lived in Fort Myers, Florida for 35 of those years. We loved it there. We were very happy there. We raised our two boys there. And my husband had just retired, and he passed away. But I want to give you a little bit of background before that. First, I want to just share with you that God's word is true and has seen me through every bit of this. You know, it's hard to explain that peace that passes all understanding except to just say that it is not a natural thing. It is supernatural, and it is from the Lord, and He has given me that peace. Do I still have hard days? Absolutely. Do I still struggle sometimes? Yes. I'm just like the rest of you. I have my moments, but all in all, God has really sustained me. So I want to go back a little bit. Um, my family, I'm one of five children. Uh, Four girls and one boy, and I am the youngest girl, and then my brother Mark is younger than me. And we had a great family upbringing. You know, sometimes I feel guilty because I don't have anything to complain about. I mean, guilty in the sense that you might be in a group and people are sharing what a hard life they've had and childhood they've had, and I just think, I I didn't have that, and I'm so grateful. And yet, like I said, sometimes I feel like I hate to even say it because I don't want those people to think that I'm not empathetic or don't understand. But anyway, in 2017, we lost my brother-in-law, Tom. And I won't say any of them are lost because we know where they are. But he went to be with the Lord. And that was the first loss we had had in our immediate family in quite a while. And so it was a difficult thing to get through. But my sister Marcia had been married to Tom for 50 years. And that's what I was shooting for, especially with Craig. We wanted to celebrate all those golden years together and to grow old together. After Tom passed away and went to be with the Lord, about a year later, my dad passed away. He was 89 years old, a mighty man of God who loved the Lord so much. But being such a close family, as we watched him deteriorate in the last few months, and we took turns being caretakers, but I lived there, so I was there a lot. I was at their house almost every day, if not every day. And my sisters would come down, and Marcia came to live also there after Tom passed. And so we took care of my mom and dad. My mom was getting dementia. So it was really difficult for my dad to deal with and for all of us to deal with. Any of you who have had a loved one who has dementia or Alzheimer's know that it's devastating to a family. And so my dad needed kidney dialysis, and it didn't agree with him very much, and he decided to just not go on dialysis, which was hard for us too because we wanted to keep him around as long as we could. But Daddy was a strong believer, and he trusted God. And so we said goodbye to him in July of 2019 or 2018, I'm sorry. And then, of course, Mother with the Alzheimer's, she didn't understand. And they'd been together since they were 17 years old. So they were both 89. And so it was very difficult for her to understand where he was. And every day it was asking, where's Daddy? Where's Daddy? And we just had to draw closer and closer to God as a family and as individuals, and do everything that we could to take care of our mother and to be there for her. You know, Mark 11:24 says, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've received it and it will be yours. So we asked for God's will. We just asked for God to shield her and protect her. And within 6 months, then the next January, she passed away. And so we had Tom, and then a year later, my dad, and then my mom. And it was really, really, really hard to say goodbye to all of them. But we thought, and we hoped, that that would be it for a while. 6 months later, I lost my best friend, Sherry, B. Sherry Haynes, I called her, to cancer. So I was with her during that transition and as she passed away, and her family, who I love dearly, and they're like my second family, my kids, my grandkids. So it was like, okay, so now it's Tom, Dad, Mom, Sherry. And Sherry had such strong faith, just like the rest of them. As she said when she knew she had cancer, she said whether she lived or whether she didn't, that it was a win-win situation for her, because she knew that she would be with the Lord if she did not survive this cancer. And she didn't, but she went to be with the Lord, and I know is celebrating in heaven. So during that time, Craig and I were planning on selling our house and moving, possibly closer to family. We just didn't know where we were going, but we knew that wherever we went, that we would go together, and that no matter what, we had each other through all that. So Craig retired a little early because he had diabetes and had some physical problems, but nothing that we thought would take his life in any rapid form. And that November, he went and did a blood marrow transfusion for his brother, or transplant, I should say. His brother had leukemia, his brother Brian, and Craig was the perfect match. And even though Craig wasn't in the greatest of health, he still was willing to go and do the best he could to help his brother. So he went through that in November. Well, he and his brother, or actually December, and he and his brother both got sepsis, and his brother passed away, but Craig was, taking medication for the sepsis and seemingly doing well. So we took a little trip before we moved and closed on our house and everything. We took a little trip to North Carolina, our first trip after retirement. And Craig had some chest pains in the night. He thought he had bronchitis. And long story short, he went into the hospital there. And in 2 weeks, we were making plans to bring him home. And they were telling us, get ready. And instead of bringing him home, he passed away suddenly. So, I was in total shock. I just was beside myself. I mean, y'all know what it's like to lose someone you love. But, and I'm not saying that I have it any worse than anybody else, but all of that did pile up on each other, All of it just seemed like it was just one after the other after the other. And I was reminded of 2 Timothy 1:7 that says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And, I was fearful that who would be next. It's just like every 6 months I was losing the most significant people in my life other than my children and my siblings. And so I moved to be closer to my sister, who is in Alabama, and she had some health problems, but again, no one expected her to not make it. Well, I was here less than 2 years when her son Joe, who was 42, was in a motorcycle accident and tragically killed. And so we lost Joe. Well, like I said, we didn't really lose him, but Joe went to be with the Lord. And less than a month later, Linda, I just think she gave up, but she went to be with the Lord. I struggled a lot with all of this. And then God opened up a door for me to join. I was going to my Church of the Highlands, and He opened up a door, and it's a miraculous the way He did it, and just introduced me to people that I would not have normally met, that knew of my need, that ministered to me, and brought me to this widows group. And my vision of this at first was like maybe a lot of just older women, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I didn't want to go because I thought all I would do was cry. But after I went and found out that that was okay, if that's what I needed to do, that they were there and they understood, and it was a turning point for me in my walk. I was just around people who understood me and who could comprehend what I was going through, and who were going through the same thing. Some, their husbands had more recently passed. Some, it had been several years. I think if you remember Trisha's testimony here on our first episode, her husband had been gone for 10 years when she did the interview a month or two ago. And so, but it doesn't mean that she still didn't have struggles and have to work through all of that. And I think that that's what, the Lord tells us in Joshua, to be strong and courageous. not to be dismayed because God is with us wherever we go. And I would find myself just sometimes in a total fog and not knowing what to do next or how to do it. And then, but at the same time, I've had this, through all of this, have had this peace that God talks about in His Word that passes all understanding. And during this time, I just held on to God. And, my boys would say, Mom, sometimes you still talk about Dad a lot. Are you okay? Are you getting over this? How are you moving on with your life? But I would just, say, I'm doing the best I can do. And, my sisters, they were there to help me so much, and my brother and sister-in-law. And just to have family, my nieces, and all of them just surrounding around me. And I just encourage you to not isolate yourself, because we have the tendency to want to isolate. Sometimes thinking, nobody really understands what I'm going through. Sometimes thinking nobody really cares. It's weird when you see the whole world just going on, moving on, and doing their thing. But you want to say, wait a minute, how can you just continue on like this? Because don't you know my husband died? Don't you know my mom and dad and my best friend and my brother-in-law and my sister and nephew? Don't you know that they all died? And in the meantime, I lost friends to COVID as well. Craig passed in February of 2020, and that was right when COVID started. So fortunately, I had been able to be in the hospital with him, and at least I had that, but was not able to have a funeral or a service for him because that was right at the beginning of COVID, when everyone was quarantined and not knowing what was going to even happen with all of that. So for me, that first year was a year of almost forced isolation. But one of my sons and daughter-in-law came to stay with me and get me through that transition. And that was a total blessing. I don't know how people without families manage things like this. But they came and stayed with me. And that really blessed me. That helped me. But at the same time, I was just going through all of this, kind of just needing to be alone. So I got through that first year, and then that's when I came back up here where I am now in Alabama to be with my family here. Also, it made me close to my boys because one lived in Atlanta and one in North Carolina, so it's just a short drive away from either one of them. So that helped. And my little grandson Jack, even through all of this, it was a loss for all of them too. And I felt like that because I was the mom, you know, the only, one left in a way as far as for guidance or, that with my kids, that I had to be strong and I had to, just, I had to make it. And sometimes I had to fake it until I made it. But when that door shut to my bedroom at night and when I laid my head down, that's when I missed Craig the most. And I'm just going to be real with you. It was hard. But all the time, God just provided for me, and in the strangest ways sometimes. And everybody teases me because some of the weirdest things have happened. But I came here, God provided me with a home that I love. It's a small home and kind of cottagey, but I love it, and it meets all of my needs. And God has just really done a work in my life in so many ways. The reason that I started this podcast was because the Lord told me to, basically. I just heard from the Lord and knew that He was telling me I needed to do a podcast, which I knew nothing about doing. And twice confirmed it through people. I hadn't told anybody that I was thinking about it. And I was in one of my widow's meetings, and my friends and I were talking, and we were talking about how we could reach more people and help more people. And so I said, yeah, I really would like to be able to do that. And my friend who was there with me, Rebecca, said, well, it's not like you've got a podcast or something. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't say anything about a podcast. And then my sister Marcia just brought up podcasts out of the blue. And so I knew that that's what God wanted me to do. And I knew that God knows you're out there. God knows you need encouragement. You need to know that it's okay to grieve, that you need to know there's no right and wrong way to grieve, but that God said in His Word, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Even Jesus wept. It's not something that you need to sink deep into where you can't see your way out to not only help others, but to help yourself. God will take care of you, and He has been faithful to me, and for me to know that no matter what I'm going through, He's going to be there for me, and He's going to take care of me. And so I just have tried to go by what God's Word says, to cast all my anxieties on Him because He cares for me in 1 Peter, and to just hold tight to my beliefs and to what God has done for me and is continuing to do for me. So I started this podcast, and I am so excited to bring it to you. I hope that you'll watch each and every week. And it's just been an encouragement to me to hear your comments and to know that God is ministering to you through this. I just want to leave you with this. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to worship the Lord. We're here to build each other up. We're here to encourage each other. We're here to just let each other know that we're there for them, that we have your back, and that most importantly, God has your back, and that I'm going to choose life. I'm going to choose to be strong and courageous. I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose life and living it to its fullest and trying to do what God would want me to do. And beyond that, I don't know what the future holds. And I know it's an old cliche, but I know who holds the future. But I do. And I'm encouraged by that. And I want you to be encouraged today too. And to know that we're going to continue on with this podcast. And there's lots of stories to be told and lots of testimonies. And just that you would be blessed and highly favored as I have been, and that you would know that you are loved no matter what, no matter the circumstances, that God will never leave you or forsake you, and hopefully you'll find friends and family and people who love you that will do the same. God bless you. See you next time with a new interview. I've got some really exciting people lined up, and we will tell you who they are as time comes. God bless you. I love you. Bye.